Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Kicking It with Cal. I'm your host, Cal Denicky, and we got our NBA 2024-2025 preview pod, highly anticipated, with Brad Hardin and David Bracey. Brad, how you doing? How you been, man?
I'm doing good. I definitely want to get the Detroit Pistons take off my back. So this is for redemption. So Detroit, this is not for you. This is for everybody else. Everybody else. But I'm glad to be here with you today, Cal and David.
Cool. David, how you doing?
I'm good, man. NBA's right around the corner. Living good, feeling good. Let's get it. Let's talk some hoops.
All right. So we got some redemption from last year with some of the takes like Brad was talking about with Pistons and all this and that. So people don't forget. So
No, they don't. They don't forget.
we'll have to come back at the end of the season and see how we're doing with these takes. But I would like to start off with talking about our biggest storylines coming into the NBA season. So David, I'll start with you. What do you think is your biggest storyline going into the 24-25 NBA season?
I think the biggest storyline has got to be the Oklahoma City Thunder for me. To me, they are the team that has next. They made some pretty significant moves, in my opinion, in the offseason. Maybe not significant by name, but to people who pay close attention to the league, they got some very, very valuable players to kind of solidify their roster, and they still got a lot of picks. They still got a lot of moves they could make. So to me, the team to watch this year is definitely going to be the Thunder. They're my final pick.
In those two people he's talking about, Alex Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein, what do you think that adds to the Thunder for their depth?
Well, for Hardenstein, I know he's hurt right now, but I mean, when he comes back, he's going to add two things. He's definitely going to add, another quality big in their rotation. So when they go up against guys like Nikola Jokic, Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid, for example, they will have another big body to kind of throw at those guys. He's also going to add another playmaker that they can put into actions at the top of the key on the low post. He's a very, very talented player, and I look forward to seeing him in those actions. And then Caruso, I mean, dude is a dog. Like he is a great, great defensive player of the year type of player, a perennial all defensive player. The guy just does all the intangibles. He's the nitty gritty glue guy. He's a competent 3-point shooter. And I think he was kind of that missing piece that they needed last year on offense. They have Lou Dort, just not as talented offensively, in my opinion, as Alex Caruso. So bringing in a guy who I think spaces the floor a little bit better alongside J-Dub, alongside Dort, these other guys, the ceiling is the roof, as they say, for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Luckily, I got my Brad here, my guy Brad here, holding it down, hanging out, doing stuff. So just enjoying life as much as we can with all the irregular things that have been happening here in the Tampa Bay area lately. But
strong.
All good, and thanks for coming on, boys. I appreciate it.
Always. Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, Brad, outside the Oklahoma City Thunder, what do you think the biggest storyline going into this NBA season would be?
The biggest storyline for me would be the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, they got to the NBA Finals last year. We saw some growth opportunities for Luka. I thought that obviously his talent is, undeniable, and obviously Kyrie does what Kyrie does. And they were a surprise team defensively, especially after they made the moves to get PJ Washington and add Gafford from Washington last year. And it really set the course for their season and their postseason run. And now they add a Najee Marshall, who was a good 3-and-D guy, well north of 40% last year. You add Klay Thompson, obviously that was a big talk of the offseason. Is Klay washed or not? I mean, in my opinion, the players they add, you add a Quentin Grimes and you add another ball handler who is returning to Dallas, and Spencer Dinwiddie. So you have a little bit of continuity. You add more floor spacing on top of the players in the paint, the Livelies, the Washingtons that can go in and get a rebound, and obviously I mentioned Gafford. So you have more floor spacing to pair around Luka. You have another ball handler to take some of the responsibilities away from Kyrie, who had a very efficient season playing the two guard last year. So I think that, and obviously nothing to take away from the team that David mentioned. Obviously the Mavericks eliminated the Thunder, and certainly they're going to have to see them again on the block, of course. But I want to see what jump they take from year one to year two. It's clear they love what Jason Kidd's doing. They extended him this offseason. And let's see if Luka is going to take that next step as far as maturity and being a great teammate to see if that can lift them back into the finals and maybe see if they're going to host the Larry O'Brien this year.
Yeah, and not many people thought they would make a finals run last year, and they did.
Sure did.
And I like what they did in the offseason as well. And we've been kind of focusing on the West, and I do think the East is pretty down this year after looking at kind of what happened in the offseason. But my biggest storyline is who's going to win the cat trade between the New York Knicks and the Minnesota Timberwolves, with Karl Anthony Towns going to New York and then Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I like the trade for both teams. I think the Knicks needed a big man and a good shooting big man in Cat. I didn't know if Cat and Gobert were going to be able to coincide together in Minnesota, although they had a great run last year. So my biggest storyline is who's going to win that trade, because that was a blockbuster deal that happened very late. We in the NBA offseason, we think June 30th, early July for when those blockbuster deals hit, and this one was fairly recently. So to see who's going to win that trade, I think is my biggest storyline. But we can't forget about the Boston Celtics. So, Brad, can Boston repeat as champs?
Absolutely, yeah. Barring, they absolutely can repeat. I mean, they're losing nobody from last year. You have that continuity. You still have the same coaching staff for the most part. And then you have the chips on the shoulders of Jason Tatum continuing to prove himself in the league and prove doubters wrong. Especially, I think that was a little bit magnified with the lack of minutes that he got in the Olympics. And obviously, Jaylen Brown snubbed from the Olympics, another chip on his shoulder. And then you have Derek White and Drew Holiday, who do nothing but just be glue guys and just be great role players and play the role perfectly and play great defense with Boston. And obviously one of the most efficient offenses to ever grace that opaque court up in Boston. So I think that they have a wonderful opportunity to repeat this year.
Yeah, I do too. David, what do you think? And how would you compare it to us talking about if Denver would repeat the year before? Because I think we all said they probably could. They obviously didn't. They got upset by Minnesota. But where's your confidence level with Boston repeating versus what we thought about Denver the previous year, knowing that we haven't had a repeat champion since the Golden State Warriors in 17 and 18?
Yeah, to be honest, that's where I'm coming from. The historical perspective, I think, is key here. To your point, we have not had a repeat NBA champion since that dynastic Warriors team. And I think that's for a reason. And I think a big part of that reason is health. A big part of winning a championship is the luck. And you got to be lucky to stay healthy all year. That's unfortunately just the reality. So in that regard, Boston is already down KP. We will see what it looks like for them first half of the season when they will probably be without him. Maybe he comes back around Christmas. Who knows? Maybe it's closer to All-Star break, depending on where their record sits. It'll be hard to tell. But to be honest with you, I'm viewing it almost identically to that Nuggets team. They need to come out of the gate strong. They need to maintain pole position because, when you're the champ, everybody's gunning for you. You can't come out with a bigger target on your back. And Boston has shown now that they can respond to adversity. The question is still with them, can they be consistent? Can they be consistent offensively and defensively? Can they be consistent in terms of who we expect to close out games, who's the leader on the floor and off the court? We haven't seen that consistency yet from that team. Will this be the year we start to see that? That remains to be seen. But expectations are high. That's what happens, again, when you win a championship. So the sky's the limit for Boston. It's theirs to lose. But as I said, coming out the gates without KP, it's going to be tough sledding.
Yeah, and I think about how well the Boston played in the playoffs without Porzingis last year and think, regular teams don't go as hard as they do in the playoffs. So I don't see them falling off too much without Porzingis, although some people might think that. So I obviously think they can repeat. We'll get to our playoff predictions later, but skill-wise, talent-wise, what they're returning, what Joe Mazzulla's done with them, for sure. It's theirs to lose, as we said. So I want to talk a little bit about the team that we think is going to make the biggest leap, because every year we see teams that surprise us and somehow come out of nowhere and make that giant leap. So I'll go ahead and start off, and we'll stay in Florida here, Brad. I'm going to take the Orlando Magic.
Okay.
So they went 47 and 35 last year, finished middle of the road. I think exceeded expectations for how young of a team they are. I think Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner are going to make that leap. And I know Franz didn't shoot the ball extraordinarily well last year, but I think those two guys are ascending, and they're the two perfect guys to kind of match with a young team to get them to make that leap to a top 3 seed. Adding KCP in the offseason, huge to get that adult in the room. But if you watch that series that they had in the playoffs against Cleveland, it was offense that was lacking. So someone's going to need to step up on offense. I know KCP is a good 3-point shooter, but the guy I'm looking for is Anthony Black. In his second year as a point guard, loved him at Arkansas, a real silky smooth player, but only averaged 4.6 a game last year. And I think he can be a versatile scorer. So I'm looking for him to step up and the Magic to really make that leap and get around 50 wins or maybe even a little bit more. So that's my team that I think is going to make the biggest leap. Brad, who do you got?
Real quick question: what is your thoughts on Suggs? Because I know Suggs is a great defensive guard, and if he can make any leap offensively, I think that could help that team too.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great defensive team. So, and I've seen him play in person a few times, and his defense is unreal. I love his on-ball defending. I think he'll make improvements, but I don't think he's going to be the offensive player that people thought being picked in the top 5 and what he did at Gonzaga and what he was like as a high school player being a top recruit in the nation. I just don't think he's there. I hope he gets there, but I just don't see him being that volume scorer that people thought he may have been out of college.
I was curious your thoughts there. My team that I think is going to make a leap this year, I'm going to go with the Houston Rockets. Year 2 with Udoka. They were right outside the top 10 last year. They made a nice little run towards the end of that year. Can that carry over to the start of this year? And can they hit the ground running? I mean, obviously, you got Şengün. You still have Jalen Green for right now, Van Fleet. I love Amen Thompson. I love Whitmore, Tari Eason. The list goes on. A lot of young players, and they are in a wonderful position that even if they don't keep this core together, they can package Green and maybe another player and some picks and get someone else that wants to get out of whatever their current situation is, wherever that star may be, and come to H-Town and perform in front of 50 Cent and whoever else is there on the front row at the Toyota Center downtown in H-Town. But I can see them making that leap. They do play fairly well defensively, a lot better than I thought they would. Obviously, there's a lot of offensive-minded players. I forgot about Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is on that team. He's probably like that glue guy defensively for them. So I'm curious to see what they do this year. They were so close. They made a nice little run to make it interesting down the stretch. And I can see them, barring a trade, maybe making a leap and maybe being a play-in team in the Western Conference this year.
Yeah, they finished 500 last year, and I think they're only going to get better. They're young. All those guys you mentioned.
Jabari Smith, I forgot about Jabari Smith.
Yeah, they've got a talented roster. So, David, who's your league team this year?
Like my league pass team?
Who do you think's going to make the biggest leap?
Oh, leap. Sorry, I thought you said league team. I think the team that'll make the biggest leap, I mean, it's kind of a low ball here, but the Memphis Grizzlies, they kind of were already on the rise, and then due to some of their own behavior and some behavior and circumstances that were out of their control, they kind of fell from grace. I expect them to try to get back to where they were this season. Hopefully, Ja is able to keep things together, if you will, and stay on the court. Last year was health and other things that kind of kept them away, but hopefully he gets a good season in. Same could be said for Marcus Smart. They got that guy last year. Never really got to see a good amount of run out of him. Desmond Bane continues to kind of be the metronome for their team, Mr. Consistent. Looking forward to see him continue to expand his playmaking ability. We kind of saw that last year with both Ja and Marcus Smart out. JJJ, of course, DPOY, Mr. Block Your Shot. Love his game. Banged up right now. Sounds like he'll be all right. So good to have him back in the fold. And then, Big Edie, interesting. We will see what that looks like. The Grizzlies have a lot of potential. The West is, as we've seen, pretty wide open. It's really anybody's race. So I expect them to find themselves well within the gang of 8 and outside of the play-in push, if you will. But yeah, I would say the Grizzlies are my big leap team this year.
Yeah. I picked them as my biggest disappointment last year, and I hit the nail on the head.
You
They
did.
performed. They were off the gate. They just did not come out strong. But I agree with that, David. I think they're going to make a leap as well. Brad, I think the Rockets. I think we've nailed this. I mean, we'll come back at the end of the season and kind of see what the records line up to be. Just good thing
We
the
stayed
Pistons.
away from the Pistons this year, so
Stay away. Stay
hey,
away from them.
that's right.
Yeah, but speaking of disappointments, I do want to hear your guys' biggest disappointment. Who do you think is going to just fall off the face of the earth, Brad? Who's the team that you're just not looking forward to seeing because of the drop?
I'm gonna go to Clippers. Obviously losing Paul George, and that was a lot of their own doing, especially if you heard what Paul George said in the offseason about the offers that were given to him prior to the season last year. That just was not up to what Paul George wants, and maybe, and I mean, and that's purely objective. Fans, people, whoever you think about Paul George as far as what his worth is now with his injury history, and he just wanted just what Kawhi is getting, and they did not want to do that, and then they wanted to do it at the midnight hour, which showed Paul George like they really, I mean, they just didn't value Paul George, like he thought he should have been valued. And with them starting this going into the new arena this year, Kawhi's already hurt. I mean, Tyronn Lue is a good coach, but I mean, what is he really working with there? I just think that they're definitely going to take a step back from where they were last year. And I'm not saying tankathon, but I mean, they might need to look towards the future at some point, especially keeping revenue up with the new arena that they spent a lot of money on in LA.
Did you agree with their decision to go with Kawhi over PG?
I did not agree with the decision. I thought they should have kept him. I mean, the money, I see the business aspect, NBA wise, so I understand why they did not make that decision. But I mean, Paul George played great last year, in my opinion. And probably the healthiest he's been, which is not saying much, but the healthiest he's been in the last few years. And he certainly was the best player on that team last year, in my opinion. Kawhi, when he did play very well, but how much can count on that? So I will say the Clippers will be that biggest disappointment team this year.
Well, you stole my pick, so I got nothing to say other than the fact that they finished fourth in the West last year. They had a good season. They had a good run. I think they maximized their potential, but with every reason you stated, it'll be a little disappointing going into the new arena in Inglewood to have a not great roster to put out.
Are they going to have fans in that big wall? That should be the biggest storyline. Are they going to have fans in the big wall that's going to distract people?
Right. David, who's going to disappoint you this year?
Well, I guess since you don't have one, Cal, I'll give you one from each conference. Two different reasons. From the Eastern Conference, the Bucks, I think, are going to be the biggest disappointment, and it's for lack of change. The Bucks really did not do a whole lot this offseason to improve their roster, in my opinion. Their roster continues to age. Brook Lopez, he's pushing up against 40. Dame Lillard seems healthy, but again, small guard on the opposite side of 30, tends to trend the opposite direction. Chris Middleton.
Guy. Dame is
Yeah.
your guy.
I mean, I love him. I know what time it is, but unfortunately, Father Time, with the exception of LeBron James, is undefeated. So we will see whose clock runs out first. But Chris Middleton already on the shelf. I mean, yeah, you're looking at Big Eye Bobby Portis, and Bobby is good for buckets, but sometimes those buckets are mop buckets, and he's playing cleanup because the game is a blowout and not in favor of Milwaukee. So I think Milwaukee's going to struggle out of the gates. We'll see what that looks like. You already hear Giannis asking and murmuring about, oh, if we don't win this year, am I going to get traded? Like, I mean, Sam Amick had an article where Giannis was asking members of the Bucks staff, like, if we don't win this year, are you still going to be here? Like, and he's asking them these questions, during this interview. So he's very open about the reality of the NBA, and that's that things change very quickly. I mean, how many coaches has this dude had? So Milwaukee, you are on notice. And on the opposite side, another former champion, the Denver Nuggets. I think they're going to struggle, and it's because of change. That change is they lost their best three-point shooter, KCP. They lost an incredible floor spacer. They lost a great defensive guard. And what does KCP stand for? Heat championship players. The Lakers lost them, and they went the opposite direction what's going to happen with the Nuggets? I think we can say the same. As much as I love Russell Westbrook, please stop shooting threes in preseason because it ain't going to carry over to the regular season. Mile High City, you better smoke one because it's going to be a long one. I really, really think that. So we will see. Jokic is incredible, but I mean, this dude is he's not a three-point shooter like that. So again, the question is floor spacing. The question is depth. I think both of those things, they are severely lacking right now. So Denver, you're on notice.
Which of those two teams do you think has a lower floor? I mean, I don't see either of them missing the playoffs, but could either of those two teams be a play-in team in your opinion?
To be real with you, I think if either one was going to be a play-in team, um, it most likely would be the Bucks. And I say that because I think that I'm more concerned about the ability to keep all of their players on the floor. Jokic, knock on wood, has been pretty healthy his career. He's also younger than the guys on Milwaukee's team, so I have more confidence in his ability to drag his team into the playoffs. Whereas Milwaukee, if they lose Dame early in the season and it's the Giannis, Brooke Lopez, Bobby Portis show, I mean, Gary Trent Jr. is going to love it. But will anyone else? I mean, it's a great time for Marjon Beauchamp, but it's not turning you into an NBA champ. This is the question. So what does Milwaukee do? I don't know, but they could still, lose their way into a play-in because let's be real. Look at the play-in competition in the East. I mean, you're talking about going up against, no disrespect, the Bulls. You're talking about going up against, the Hawks, who maybe the Raptors. I mean, the Heat. Yeah, I mean the Heat. Perennial playoff team, like our play-in team, I should say more likely. So yeah, I have more confidence in Denver's floor, I would say. But the West is, in my opinion, better than the East. So I could be way off base here. I mean,
And the rumors of Giannis having those conversations is kind of crazy. I mean, if Giannis Antetokounmpo were to get traded mid-season because things weren't going well, that would send shockwaves throughout the league. And I was just kind of brainstorming in my head like what teams would look good for him, and you put him on any contending team, and that would
Houston.
be
Houston.
if I had to bet, I would say that a in-season trade is probably like 90% unlikely, only because of the fact that the Bucks are going to want assets back. And this upcoming draft, I don't know if you heard of this guy named Cooper Flag. A lot of teams want to see where that pick is going to land. And depending on where that pick lands, maybe a team, maybe a team wants to throw that into the mix. I think especially considering the fact, Milwaukee has a new ownership group, maybe they wouldn't mind getting Giannis and his, $100 million plus contract off of the books for a rookie scale contract. I mean, I think Cooper Flag will escalate that contract pretty quickly, but still, I mean, so these are kind of the machinations that I would expect that to kind of play out in. But yeah, next summer, I think Giannis is definitely going to be a name that is talked about a lot leading up to the draft and definitely leading up to the beginning of free agency.
Yeah. And Giannis was once a breakout star. So let's talk a little bit about who we think our breakout stars will be. Last year, we went with guys like Devin Vassell, Tyler Hero, Keegan Murray, and I think those guys did fine. But I don't know if they broke through to a level that was extraordinary by any means. So we'll see kind of how our takes go this year. So David, I'll start with you. Who do you think your breakout star is going to be? Who's going to come on the scene and just take the league by storm?
Oh, well, I'm gonna stick with the Thunder. It's gotta be J-Dub. I mean, if you're not already a part of J-Dub Nation, please come talk to me. I'll get you a pass. It's wonderful. Welcome. We're excited to have you. J-Dub is the truth. He is going to get a lot of run, especially with Giddey being out of the picture in OKC. Follow him on IG. He's got great fits, and his fits are just as clean as his offensive game. But don't get it twisted. He is very talented defensively. He has a lot of versatility. He's a younger brother named Cody who just entered the league this year in the most recent NBA draft. But Jalen Williams is, I think, the next guy on the Oklahoma City Thunder, just like Shea was 3 seasons ago. And everybody was kind of like, who is Shy? Who is this guy? And now everybody knows the acronym SGA. They know what that means. Pretty soon you will understand who J-Dub is and just what he brings to the table. So definitely, if you don't have League Pass, get it. But you probably won't need it because I expect the Thunder to have a good amount of national television games this season.
Brad, who's your breakout star?
I'm going to go with a team that is not of the caliber of the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I think this guy's going to get plenty of opportunities to shine. And I'm going to go Brandon Miller. I love his scoring ability. He has looked good in the preseason. He is very hot and cold, but let's be real. With what they have in Charlotte, he's going to have more than enough opportunity to score and have some games where you look at the box score and you say, I think he's going to – I don't know if he'll be an all-star because I don't know if the team success will warrant him becoming one. But I definitely think that he's going to make a leap this year with just his ability to shoot the 3 ball. I mean, he was 37% last year. The rookie was pretty good, in my opinion. And he's a high volume shooter. And I think that can get better with efficiency, with Miles Bridges there. If they can get any post player healthy and work on that spacing, that is only going to help with his production. Not a solid rebounder, like 3-4 rebounds a game. He's not going to do much outside of that, but just pure buckets. I think Brandon Miller can take that leap this year and have some high offensive output games.
Well, David, you stole my second storyline got stolen, so I took Jalen Williams as well. And for basketball, for me, it's all about the eye test. And the first time I watched Jalen Williams play, I was just blown away by how well he controlled the floor, everything he could do, pass, rebound, shoot. Had a couple stats for him. He went from 14 points a game his rookie year to 19 points a game last year. His 3-point percentage went from 35% to 42%, which is a huge leap from year 1 to year 2. An 81% free throw shooter. And when you watch the Thunder play, he is, he's Robin to SGA as Batman. So, David, you stole my pick. So I'll have to pivot a bit. And, I don't think this guy's going to be a bona fide superstar, but I want people to watch out for Stephon Castle for the San Antonio Spurs. And the run he had at UConn was incredible. I just like his game. He's going to be able to work with Wembanyama. He's going to have a leader in Chris Paul, show him the way. And I just love that pick. As soon as he got picked 4th overall to San Antonio, I said that's going to be great for what the Spurs are building with Wemby and what they're going to build around him. And I just think he's going to be on the all-rookie team. I think he's going to be the best player in that draft with a couple of, picks that we didn't know about at the top with some French dudes. So time will tell what that rookie class turns into. But in my opinion, I think Stephon Castle is going to be a great player in the NBA, and he's going to show that his rookie year.
French, I was going to say Richache. Is that correct? Richache?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we shall see is what they should call that man.
So if you're not familiar with NBA League Pass, it's got all the teams. You can watch any games you want. If you don't have it, you could just, take a look at the highlights. But Brad, who's going to be your League Pass team that you want to see on a daily basis that might not be getting the shine on TNT and ESPN like your Celtics and your Mavs and your teams that we see every Friday night that we want to see? A couple of these younger teams, and what team is going to stand out to you that you'd like to see on League Pass?
I'm going to keep the theme, and I'm going to say the Houston Rockets are my League Pass team just because of how hard they play. They are a fun team to watch. The possibilities with them as far as just with their current roster and what they can do with it. And they're a team that, even if a team that is superior to them in talent is ahead of them, they fight hard and they lock down on the defensive end. And once they create some turnovers and Jalen Green gets on a fast break, and if they're playing at home in the Toyota Center and they get that crowd going, they're a very fun team to watch. So I wanted to pick them because I had another team in mind, but I feel like it's going to come out between you two, so you might want to circle back on the second team. Well, I'm going to say the Houston Rockets are my league pass team this year.
Well, I'm not going to say it because you picked mine. So anyway, David, go ahead. I'll pivot as Brad is saying everything I wanted to say.
Wow. See, Cal, you got to go first, man. You got to pull the trigger. Um, I'm going to say my league pass team this year is up north, and it's going to be the Toronto Raptors. I think that they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. You know, they got IQ, Emmanuel Quickly, shout out my Kentucky boys, Scotty Barnes in the building, RJ Barrett, you know, recently relocated, but back where he belongs. You know, shout out to Great North. I'm not going to throw up the six because they're not like us. But I think Toronto's going to be a lot of fun. I expect them to push the tempo. I expect them to try to score a lot of buckets. And they got a lot of guys who can space the floor. Ochai Agbaji out of Kansas. I really liked him. He got traded there in a deal with Utah. Grady redacted. I think he's definitely going to be pulling out there. So, yeah, definitely load up some Toronto Raptors games and join Jurassic Park because it is a good time. And like Cal said, get League Pass because League Pass is unprecedented. And then you can actually hear the way that they call those games in Toronto because they have a great color commentary squad. And every once in a while, they'll have a celebrity in the booth. I'm sure you can go soon. But it's a lot of fun. So definitely Toronto is my League Pass team this season.
I do agree that they're going to be fun, but are they going to win games?
It's a league pass team for a reason. Okay. We're not watching for wins. Okay. We're watching we're just watching, I guess. That's really what it is. We're watching for fantasy, if for nothing else. I got some Raptors on my squad, so I'll definitely be watching. Do I think they'll win a lot of games? Maybe. They're scrappy. Yeah, they're scrappy. And like you guys have talked about, a lot of these more veteran and experienced teams, they tend to not take the regular season as serious. Toronto's pretty young. They don't really have anything to lose. I expect them to kind of fight until the bell, if you will. So maybe they'll go out and surprise some people, win some games that maybe they shouldn't because teams kind of take the night off. I don't know. You know, I think Toronto will be fun though.
Yeah, and you know we can't do a podcast with the three of us without mentioning the Sacramento Kings. So Sacramento Kings, that'll be my league pass team this year. I've always enjoyed what's going on in Sacramento. You know, they're like the Buffalo Bills of the NBA. You know, you can't hate the Kings. It's a hardworking city. You've got a proud fan base, good environment, good arena. You know, Sabonis, he's on the Netflix show Starting Five. If anyone hasn't seen that,
Great show.
Check out a little bit about what
Great
the league. David's guy, De'Aaron Fox, still doing his thing, trying to prove that keeping him over Halliburton was the right move. Not looking, it's looking okay. Halliburton definitely is ascending. I think a little bit greater than Fox is, but I like what's going on in Sacramento. You know, my guy Red Velvet, Kevin Herter, still doing his thing. You know, I'm just always had a soft spot in my heart for the Kings, so that'll be my league pass team.
How do you feel about DeMar being in Sacramento now?
Honestly, I like it. You know, he's that veteran presence. Not that they're a super young team, but you know, he's proving that the older he gets, he's still doing his thing. And guys his age usually start to fall off, but he's an extremely clutch player, and I think it'll be a good fit for them. So,
like that bean. Like that bean.
So I got some rapid fire questions for you guys. I'm going to say a word or a phrase, and I want to just see what comes to your mind. Okay. So Brad, I'll start with you. And the phrase is dumpster fire.
Dumpster fire. Washington Wizards. That's easy. That's super easy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on DMV. I don't know. Someone's going to get traded. Sar didn't look great in the summer league, but it's summer league. We'll give him some grace. I mean, if you're giving Valanciunas 3 years, $30 million, you know you need some help as a franchise. So I'm sorry, DC fans. I'm glad that the Washington Commanders are doing well. You have a young star in the Nationals, Dylan Cruz, shout out LSU, that's going to hopefully do some things in baseball. The Mystics had a rough year, but almost backdoor to the playoffs. But the Wizards, I can't get down with it. So that is 100% a dumpster fire that Kyle Kuzma is going to look to get out fairly soon. And Sometimes with a pool shooting percentage, it look like he rather shoot into a dumpster because the basket needs to be bigger. Because wow, but yeah, no, the Washington Wizards hands down.
David.
Oh, dumpster fire. Damn, Brad took a good one. I'm gonna say the Utah Jazz. And here's why I'm gonna say the Utah Jazz, because they need to pick a lane. Okay, you're gonna win games, you're gonna lose. Yeah, you got Laurie Markin in there. Okay, big shotgun. He is a certified bucket getter, and you go ahead and give him a new contract that makes him untradeable this whole season. What are we doing? It's a dumpster fire. It's a dumpster fire. Now, granted, it is being controlled. It's a controlled burn. Danny Ainge is mindfully tending the fire and carefully stoking the flames. But it is a dumpster fire in Salt Lake. So we'll see what happens this season. They're going to tank. They want Cooper Flag. They want to add that pick to their treasure trove. Do they get it? Remains to be seen. But if you're a Utah Jazz fan, not too late to get out. Not too late.
Start cheering for hockey. Start cheering for hockey in that arena.
Yeah, they're drinking beer out of shoes in Utah. I saw. So those Utah fans, I'm gonna go out there in March. I'm gonna visit my friend Bite. Hopefully, check out a game, see what the city's like. But
shout out Bite.
Yeah. But I don't know what the Jazz are doing as well.
I don't know either. I don't know. I mean,
my dumpster fire team already been mentioned. LA Clippers. I don't see it. Don't know what Kawhi Leonard's doing. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, but his career will always be linked to load management, injuries. Is he motivated? Does he want to just play when he needs a contract? So, not the biggest fan, but I don't see the Clippers doing anything this year.
At least they have a nice dumpster.
He's a fun guy, though. I mean, when he plays, he is a fun guy.
David, the next phrase, cash money.
Cash money. New York Knicks. Printing money. Printing money. Everybody wanted them to be the franchise, right? They're the shining city on the hill, the Mecca, the Garden. And now they got the big bodega in the house. So the New York Knicks better be cash money this season. Because if they're not, everybody going to take them Timbs off and they're going to start clapping them against the back of Tom Thibodeau's head, okay? They need to win games. They need to be good. You got the best, in my opinion, the best wing defenders in the NBA. Giannonobi and Mikal Bridges. Okay, you got Jalen Brunson, who's out there getting certified buckets. You got, again, Karl-Anthony Towns back with his former coach who had him as an all-NBA caliber center. It better be cash money in the Big Apple, okay? Because if it's rotten, the whole fruit stand going in the trash. The whole fruit stand going in the trash. So prepare, okay? Prepare.
Brad, cash money.
I'm going to go a similar route to David, but I'm going to go with a team you just mentioned in Los Angeles Clippers. With all that money that Steve Ballmer has, the new arena, the money you played Kawhi, you extended Tyronn Lue, and you couldn't keep Paul George. All that money you spending, you can't keep Paul George with that new arena when you know you need to put butts in the seat. That's just. I'm with you. I'm with you, David. I mean, like when you're in a market where you print money and you miss the mark, that's just egregious in my opinion. It's just absolutely egregious. So they're gonna live to regret it. They better hope that the 76ers don't have success this year. And all I know is that I'm looking for whatever that matchup is, whenever the 76ers travel cross country and go into the is it Intuit Dome? Intuit Dome, is that the name? That new. All I know is that when Paul George pulls up, it's gonna be some buckets.
Well, is he going to be pulling up outside the arena or inside? Okay, because I'm wondering Paul George going to be on the court this season. But everybody knows the Clippers have been the Diet Warriors for years now, okay? And just like the Warriors, they're going to spend all this money on a brand new stadium, and then they're going to go out and have the worst season that they have had, okay? This is what you do. You build a new stadium, you sell the tickets, and then you lose. This is the formula, okay? Everybody knows this, guys. Come on. What are you talking about? Like,
my cash money team has not been mentioned yet, but we mentioned them a lot last year and they disappointed. That's the Phoenix Suns. All three of us had them in the Western Conference Finals penciled in and they disappointed.
I don't want to talk about it.
But I think because the expectations are lowered this year and now they have more continuity between them, I think they're going to do well. I think they're going to get buckets between Devin Booker having a great Olympic experience. Kevin Durant is still at the top of his game, and we'll see what Bradley Beal can do. But there's just too much offense there. I thought Grayson Allen had a great year last year as well to not succeed. So, people are sleeping on the Suns, but I like their offensive game, and I kind of associate it with that phrase "cash money."
They're going to be better too. The most underrated signing of the offseason, Tyus Jones to Phoenix. Someone to actually run the offense, and he has one of the best assisted turnover ratios in the NBA. That's what they needed, in my opinion, to not have Beal or Booker run the offense, even though they're capable. So I'm really excited how that looks this year.
Yeah. The next word, smooth. What are we thinking of when we hear the word smooth, Brad?
Smooth. I had to go with Kyrie. Man. Just his game, just the fluidity, the handles, just those moments, where he's going to he's going to get you on an island, and then he's going to do what he does, and then carve out space to get that jumper off. And when it goes in, it's just chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. So I got to go. Since Lou Will is not in the league anymore, Kyrie's done it for a while too. But with Lou Will out, Kyrie, smooth. That's why I say smooth. Pause.
Dave?
I'm going to go back to the Valley of the Sun, Cal. Devin Booker. Book it. Smooth. You saw him in the Olympics. Smooth. Mr. Do what you need. Who do it? I'll do it. That's Devin Booker. Look out. That's what he's going to do this season. All day. Watch, okay? I'm telling you, Devin Booker, smooth as silk, okay? Valley of the Sun, it's bright. It's bright. I can't wait. Let's go. KD, he back. Booker, he back. Beal, he's still there. So we going to see what it's looking like. All right.
All right. My guy, underrated, but I got to mention him. Peyton Pritchard. Don't sleep on this man. Missoula is going to give him time to cook, and he's going to have time with Boston. They're still going to be top of the East, and for being a bench guy, he's just smooth, and he's a dog, and he hits those half-court shots. So that's my guy. He's obviously not on the level of the guys you mentioned, but I love his game. He's smooth.
Mr. Half-Court Shot. Mr. Newlywed.
Yes, sir. My next word, David, I'll start with you. Newcomer. Who's going to be a newcomer this year?
Like a new name that people are introduced to in the league?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go Sengun. I'll take a Houston guy. Okay. Sengun. If you're not familiar with him, he is the Turkish Nikola Jokic. Prepare yourself. I think the Houston Rockets, again, will have more nationally televised games. Sengun is going to take a big step forward this year, especially if he can consistently make his free throws. This dude is incredibly talented. He can move the ball. He can space the floor. He is a problem. He is a real problem in the low post. He got injured late last season, so we didn't really get to see him finish out the strong season he began with. I look for him to right that ship this year. So Sengun is the new tune you're going to be singing all season long, especially if you live in an H-Town. Book it.
Before Brad steals my next pick, I'm just going to go ahead and say Yabusele for the Sixers, who played for France in the Olympics. When we talk about eye test and a dude just competing in those Olympics, I was blown away. I was like, how is this guy not in the league? You look up his track record, drafted by Boston in 2016, hung around for a few years, went over to the Euro League, had success. And then after that performance he's back. And I think Philly is a good fit for him. That's a gritty city. I think they're going to love his game. I think he's going to thrive. And just seeing what he did in the Olympics, looking like Ben Wallace, just out there getting buckets, dunking on LeBron, like it was fun to watch. So for those who don't remember from his original stop, Yabusele for the Sixers, I think is my newcomer of the year. Brad?
I wasn't going to steal that. I went a different approach. I went with a rookie, and it's a rookie that no one is really talking about, but I've mentioned him before. Khalil Ware. Shout out 501 Pulaski County, Arkansas, Little Rock. I see you out there. This is a guy, 7-footer who can stretch the floor And I see him down in Miami next to Bam, who obviously has been a post for so many years there. And if you can move Bam to the 4 and you have a 7-footer that can stretch the floor and can play off of him, I think that unlocks something that wasn't necessarily there in Miami. Is Miami going to be good? Who knows? Health. I mean, how Terry Rozier is going to do there. They still have Tyler Hero. There's a lot of unforeseen things. I'm not saying that they're going to be good, but I definitely think that you may watch some games where you're like, who's a 7-footer knocking a couple of three downs, getting a couple of blocks, and all of a sudden you look at the box score and he has 12 with 2 blocks and his 2 threes. Like that is the future big, in my opinion, for the Miami Heat. And with Bam being there for the long haul with his great facilitating, and obviously he's a great rebounder and he can shoot a mid-range game, to have a big that he can play off of that can play around the rim and rim protect, but also stretch the floor. I think he is going to be a very surprise rookie. Maybe not this year, but just someone to keep an eye out for down the road.
Never sleep on the Heat. You never know what the Heat are going to bring.
Heat culture. Heat culture.
So I think this year, going into last year, I think we thought the league would be more competitive. I think it's obvious this year there's going to be worse teams and it's going to be a little bit more top heavy. So my phrase is tankathon, and I'll go ahead and start. Portland Trailblazers, tankathon. I think last year we thought they had this young talent. We thought Scoot Henderson would be a bit better than he was, more than a bit, a lot better than he was as a rookie. You've got your Anthony Simons and you've got your young guys who I thought would maybe take a little bit more of a leap, kind of like Houston, but I just don't see it. And they're going to be in the running for Cooper Flag, which would obviously be a great asset for them. So, David, tankathon, what comes to mind?
I'm gonna stay in Illinois and I'm gonna go with the Chicago Bulls. Look, I'm so glad, like legitimately, on a real note, I am so glad Lonzo Ball is back. He is playing. You saw him diving into the stands the other day in a preseason game for a loose ball. That's a great sign, especially coming off of a 2-year injury. We didn't think we were ever going to see this dude in the league again. So definitely want to give him his credit, his flowers. Shout out to him. Hope he has a great season and a successful journey back to being a productive player. With all that in mind, what the Bulls doing? What are the Bulls doing? They ain't doing nothing. You need a good story because you're not a good team, okay? Like, and let me just say, like, you brought Vucevic back. Why? I'll tell you why. For the same reason you kept Zach LaVine a year too long. Because you don't know how to move off an asset when it has value. The Bulls only know how to move assets when they're worth nothing, okay? And that's why they gave Alex Caruso up for a bag of potato chips. It doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense. They can't, okay? And the Bulls are going to be interesting. They're going to be interesting. Like, they got Josh Giddey in there. And look, innocent until proven Giddey, okay? He's going to get a lot of run. He should have a lot of fun. Hopefully he's having responsible fun. But he should have a lot of fun. The Bulls will be interesting. They will be another one of these league pass teams, but it's going to be a tankathon because, I mean, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad, y'all.
I want to speak to your point as far as what are they doing. I can't remember where this study was, but there's a study where the teams that are more that turn a profit more so are more, or they generate more money are all those fringe teams because they're not great, but they have an opportunity to be in the playoffs. So people still have interest, even though they're frustrated with where the state the franchise is. And it's clear that teams who are afraid to tank and still want to make money, they continue to win now mode. So they're generating a profit as a franchise. And I feel like the Chicago Bulls are in that sphere, which is a detriment to their fans. Because I mean, like to your point, I mean, you don't know what the future holds because it's just we're in win now mode. We don't have a win now roster. So I completely get you there. But as far as Tankathon, I didn't go with a team. I just want to play a Cooper Flag. Like that's the name that's going to be thrown out. It's been mentioned several times in this podcast. They're probably going to do a Cooper Flag watch like they did for Trae Young or Caitlin Clark on ESPN and all the syndicates. They're going to be watching everything that he does the entire season. If he tweets a toenail, they're going to be all over it, like everything, because that is the clear prospect before the college basketball season started, obviously, and overseas. that is the name, the big name, obviously playing, scrimmaging against them in the Olympics when they're getting ready to go over to France, and all the NBA players saying great things about Cooper Flag. That's going to be the name that you hear everywhere. So just get ready. If you hear tanking, Cooper Flag's name should be in the same sentence for the entire season.
Shout out to the state of Maine, because that's where he's from. I know he played his high school basketball down in Florida at Mount Verde, but hey, man, Maine's going to be on the map now. You know, they got Stephen King,
they got
Cooper Flag.
They got lobsters.
They got that lobster. That's right. Don't forget. Shout out lobster. Okay. Shout out lobster.
The dancing lobsters for the Amanda show, but just lobsters.
Straight up.
In-season tournament. Do you have a team? Do you have
early continuity? The Pelicans, the Lakers, and I'm forgetting who the fourth team was that made it into the four, but that's besides the point now. Those were teams, and obviously the Pacers ended up making it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I mean, is it a precursor? Not necessarily, but I think it's when you look at teams like that, those are the teams that they're going to be successful in the in-season tournament. And a team that got close and lost to my Pelicans, I think it's a team that could win the in-season tournament. And they do give people fits because of how well they play offensively, and that's the Sacramento Kings. If I am to put my money down, I would put my money down on the Sacramento Kings winning the in-season tournament this year, in my opinion, just because of just what they can do offensively. You added DeMar DeRozan as a closer. You still have Fox, Sabonis, as you mentioned earlier, Monk off the bench, who we've seen some output that Monk can have. Ellis, Keegan Murray, the list goes on and on. So I see them being what the Pacers were last year in the in-season tournament and maybe potentially winning the thing.
David, what are your thoughts on the IST year 2?
Should be interesting. I guess it's the Emirates Cup now, so cool. No, but I honestly wonder if it'll be the Heat. I think the Heat, especially Jimmy Butler, feel like they got a lot to prove, kind of coming in with a chip on their shoulder early season when Jimmy hopefully plays all the games, because we know how that tends to go as the season gets along. Maybe the Heat come out of the gate, punching people in the mouth, and kind of look to reassert themselves as one of the alphas in the Eastern Conference. So that would be a team that I would keep my eye on for perhaps making a berth into the in-season tournament championship. But on the other side of the coin, definitely think the Lakers are going to make a push for it. I mean, technically, they're the defending champs. Again, cool. I think that they're going to come out and try to stand on business in that regard, because I think that realistically they know that the NBA championship probably is not in the cards for them this season. We'll see what they do at the trade deadline. But, yeah, I would say those are my two teams, I think, looking for a rematch.
Yeah, and the Lakers are a team we've hardly mentioned tonight, and I don't plan on mentioning them. But my team, I think that'll do well is the Dallas Mavericks. I think they're going to get off to a hot start. They obviously have the talent. I think Clay is going to be a great addition to that team for what they need in three-point shooting, for all the creating that Luka and Kyrie do. So I'm going to just say it here first, folks. Dallas Mavericks, Emirates Cup champion.
Almost picked them. That's a good pick.
Real quick, Brad, I know you're deep into the WNBA and what's happened this season. So thoughts on, real quickly, just what's gone on with the WNBA season thus far, and we're live in the middle of Game 5 of the finals. So, what did you like? What did you think went well for the WNBA this year?
Definitely the viewership and the attendance. I thought it was a great thing. Obviously, when you add stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese into the league, it's going to draw more eyeballs, whether you love them or not. Two very polarizing players. Definitely think that the added eyes and with the expansion looming, obviously they're going to add the Golden State franchise next year. They're going to add a franchise in Portland and Toronto the year after that, and they're looking for that fourth franchise now. So the WNBA is in a good place. Is it a good product on the floor? I think it is a good product. I think when you're a new fan to the WNBA, you're following players, and the unfamiliarity with the league itself has caused a lot of fans to be critical of like the rookie treatment towards a Caitlin Clark, which I mean it's similar to LeBron's journey. I mean, essentially when he was a rookie, big target on his back. People target him in the league to test them, and the same thing with Caitlin Clark, whether it's warranted or not. And so I think you have to separate the college game from the WNBA and NBA game if you're new to the game. You have to appreciate the league for what it is because there's a lot of women in that league who are ballers. The Brianna Stewart is playing right now. Sabrina Ionescu is playing right now. She's the female Steph Curry. I mean, and we can have a podcast myself of giving player comps. If you're an NBA fan watching the WNBA, I can give you a comp to a lot of the players in the league. But I think the league's in a good place with them going to 7 games now in a series in the finals next year, not 5 games like they're doing now. They're going to give the first round teams the ability to have a home game. It used to just be best of 3. The higher seed gets all 3 games. Caitlin Clark, unfortunately, fortunately, willed her team into the playoffs in Indiana Fever this year, but unfortunately ran into a very physical Connecticut Sun team, and they didn't even have a chance for them to play a home playoff game in Indiana, which was a shame. So I'm glad they are making changes. So if you are watching it and you're not satisfied with the product, it's going to continue to get better. It's going to continue to get better as more viewership, more opinions are based around the league. And I think the league is in a very good position. You have your stars, Asia Wilson. I didn't even mention her, and the Las Vegas Aces, who I love personally. But it's a really good league. It's really entertaining. I think it's a deeper conversation for another time. But it's a league that I watch fairly often, on a weekly basis during the summer, just because I love hoops.
Dave?
I just thought it was awesome, like the amount of exposure that the league is getting. I think this season more than ever, we kind of really got to learn about the players on and off the court. And I really do appreciate that. I think the more that you can learn about who a person is outside of what they do, the easier it is to relate to them and to appreciate all that they are. So in that regard, I think that there's, of course, more that can be done. But I think that this was a great first step in that regard. You saw a lot of women in the league, both established veterans and also new rookie first comers, kind of start to be able to more so establish a personal brand. And everybody's got a brand right now that's huge. So I think in that regard, like I said, it's awesome. I hope the exposure continues to grow. I hope they continue to get their flowers. And I hope more people continue to watch those games, critical or not. The eyes on the prize is the goal here because they are deserving of that attention. So shout out to the WNBA. Shout out to all my female hoopers. And unrelated, but shout out to Juju Watkins because she up next. Watch USC women's basketball this year. She is cold. She is the truth. And Caitlin Clark's record, she's coming for you. She's coming for you. So watch out. Watch out.
Can I add something real quick after that? If we gonna shout out Juju, shout out Flage, first off, LSU too. And she's in her bag on the court. She was preseason co-SEC player of the year. And the sky is the limit with her. And I'm not, no pun intended, with her having a song with Lil Wayne. But I will say I'm hoping that the growth with the WNBA hopefully turns to more revenue. So these young ladies don't have to go overseas and play a whole nother season out of the country after a WNBA season has happened and they're playing basketball year round. Obviously, they love the game of basketball, but they love their families and being home too. And I think the exposure and the endorsement opportunities hopefully will allow them to have a bag here so they don't have to pack their bags and go over to Russia and China and play in those leagues on the off season.
Love Flage. Came out a beast.
Big foe. Big foe.
I think we'll look back at this past WNBA season 20 years from now and say this was the point where it all changed and it became a snowball effect where it just continued to gain popularity. And maybe in 20 years, Caitlin Clark will have the LeBron type career that he had in the NBA. And I hope that happens for her and for the league to just continue to get bigger, as you mentioned, expansion and everything that's going on. So shout out to Sabrina Ionescu with that crazy step back the other night too. That was just cold-blooded.
Sabrina Ionescu.
Hey, McBride touched dirt. That was dirty. Game winner. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. No, shout out Sabrina.
So we're gonna make our NBA playoff predictions now. Just who you think Eastern Conference, Western Conference, and then finals. Last year we were all kind of in the same boat. I did pick the Celtics to win it all. So we'll see who can take it this year. I'll go ahead and start. In the East, I like the Celtics over the Knicks. Um, I like the Knicks to make that leap to the Eastern Conference Finals, but um, I think Boston will have too much with Porzingis back healthy, hopefully. And then in the West, I got OKC over the Wolves. The Wolves. I'm really excited to see what happens in the West. There's a few teams you could pencil in there, and then my champion. I'm gonna repeat. I'm gonna say Boston over Oklahoma City. I think we're 2 or 3 years away from Oklahoma City or Minnesota taking that leap to take it all. I think Boston's got it this year, and then after that, say goodbye. OKC, Minnesota, those young teams in the West have got it. So, Brad, what are your predictions? I got Boston over OKC in the finals.
Okay. So in the Eastern Conference, I have the same. I have Boston over New York. I think that's the Eastern Conference Finals for every reason that you said. I just think it would be a little too much for the Knicks to overcome. And in the West, I have the Wolves over the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. No slight against Oklahoma City. I think they're a wonderful franchise. I think they're very good too, and young and talented. I just think the taste of the finals that Luka had, I think, will spur him back. And I'm curious to see him as a teammate grow and how he can elevate his team. But I definitely think that the chip on the shoulder of Anthony Edwards, and I think DiVincenzo is going to have a chip on his shoulder too. Not to mention all the other players who were on that team for the Wolves last year, got experience, and wild card is Julius Randle as well. So I have the Wolves over Dallas, but I have Boston repeating and beating the Wolves in the finals.
David, what are you thinking?
In the East, I'm going to take Boston, and I'm going to take Philly. And I'm going to take Philly because I think that they finally are healthy enough to get there this year. Do they win? No. In the West, I'm going to take, of course, the Thunder, and then I'm going to take the Mavericks. And I got to go Thunder. And then in the finals, you know where I'm at. It's SGA all the way. It's J-Dub getting the dub. It's OKC over Beantown. That's what I'm going to say. I'm staying on business right now. I'm going to put it on the books, okay? And if Jason Tatum, he's screaming because he's pissed. He heard what I said. If I'm wrong, then everybody can give Brad hell when they see him at the bars in Florida because you won't see me, okay? But give Brad hell. So you're welcome, Brad.
Oh, man. Giannis is behind you too. I mean, you were talking about Giannis asking around for trades. I mean,
yeah, but he's Greek. He can't understand what we're saying, so it's all good.
All right. Well, we like to wrap it up with one thing on your mind. So, David, what's something going on in your life right now? Anything you want to share with the folks listening?
Oh, you know where I'm going. I'm tapped back in and I'm saying the same. We have quickly approaching another congressional hearing regarding UFOs, UAPs, and more specifically, USOs, unidentified submerged objects. So that will be televised. That will be, I believe, on the 13th of November. Stuff's getting interesting. It ain't cooling off. It's only getting hotter. There's a something there, but what is the something? We will see. So make sure you write in to your congressional representatives. Tell them that you care about UAP transparency. If you have any questions just generally about, UFOs, UAPs, aliens, NHI, extraterrestrials, or any other miscellaneous woo, holla at your boy. You know where to find me. And if you don't, hit up Cal, get my info. Request Cal. Tell Cal you want a woo pod. You want a UFO pod? With me and Cal, we chopping it up. And Brad's here, just like, what the hell are they talking about? Request it. Subscribe right now. Like, comment, share. Tell everybody that you want the UFO pod right here on Conversations with Cal, and we will do it. So that's what's new with me. It's the same. Yeah, and it's weird. So,
Brad?
I want to take this time to give him a shout out to my boy Jordan Lloyd overseas. He was playing in Israel, and he was on the team of his dreams out there in Israel, and unfortunately with the situation out there, he was hoping that he could have his family come visit him, and unfortunately, stuff is not getting better. So he made the tough decision to leave the team that he was on to go back to the team in Monaco, where he did win the French league back to back. And he actually just had a 24-point performance tonight, well, earlier in the day. Obviously, they're overseas, where he did not miss a shot from the floor. He had 4 threes. He made all of his 2-pointers. So shout out Jay Lloyd. Continue to get that back. Continue to provide for your family, man. Much love. Southside BR all day.
All right. So obviously Florida's been in the news lately with the hurricanes, Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton. So I guess the one thing on my mind is just getting my house back in order. You see, we're in a new space here in the spare bedroom because we had some flooding for Helene, but luckily didn't lose anything major. But just trying to work with what we got with me rearranging stuff in my house and trying to get back to a sense of normalcy.